let's take a look at the one more slide there, where we talk about the purpose of the plan and how we're going to handle this. Again, this portion of our training is to learn the material. We're going to learn what the material is. We're going to learn how to present it in St. Louis. And what we do to accomplish that purpose is to prepare to teach the slides. And we just focus on the core concept for just less than 5 minutes, just to kind of, just to bring out a core concept of one slide. Then we'll ask what you liked and what you'd like to change. Now, I believe we have 4 participants today that are participating, and I'm looking at the order here. Jamie, are you prepared, if I understand this right, to talk about the I send a message slide?
Yes, I am.
All right. Talk to me. What is this about?
Well, when I looked at the message, when I looked at this slide, it made me think about just the many messages that I send and interactions that I have personally and professionally with other human beings every day. And just made me wonder, how much time do you actually spend thinking about how well you're delivering your message or communicating your message? And in the section right before, we learn about building our message and how it can happen sometimes as fast as we think. And so sending our message can also be just as fast, not giving us time to consider what message we're sending. And so, as the picture suggests, sometimes our messages are as clear as though they're being amplified by a bullhorn, while other times they can be confusing and unclear, as though they were being sent between 2 cans with a piece of string. And so, in order for our messages to be sent clearly and have a high chance of being understood, it's important that our words and tone and nonverbal communication all match. And just to know that, as a matter of fact, our nonverbal communication is often more reliable and accurate than our verbal. And verbal meaning word choice, your sentence descriptors, your tone is your emotions and your attitude. And then your nonverbal is your facial expressions, your posture, your eye contact, gestures, or movement. And I think sometimes people can use their words falsely to send a message, but it's very difficult to hide a real message in nonverbal communication. And as the quote says, the eyes are the windows to our souls. It often can really reveal what message that you're truly sending. And it made me think of where I may struggle at times in this, is that I worked in a school with hundreds of people every day. And I often think about the countless messages that I send. And because I have a strong S and I behavioral tendency, I tend to be very conscientious of my tone and nonverbal communication, because I really want to make sure that I'm contributing to building relationships. And also, in an environment with a lot of distractions, I'm really conscientious about being present with people when I am communicating with them. That's really important. Where I tend to stumble sometimes is with my words. And I consider myself a very verbal person in normal communication, and I'm confident in my word choice, but it's when I have a difficult message to send, and maybe one that has to be more direct or needs to address an issue. I could sometimes stumble over my words, trying to send a difficult message using words that might be more passive or unclear. And then my tone and nonverbal communication doesn't always match the seriousness of the message that I'm trying to send, because of my desire to maintain the relationship. And so sometimes that message is unclear. And then when I don't see the change that I'm seeking, it can leave me frustrated. So I've learned to slow down when I know I have a very specific message or a difficult message that I want to send, and think carefully about the words I will use. And then when my words are clear, it allows my tone and nonverbal to be authentic and match the words, hopefully making the message more clear. And so I just think, looking at this slide, just keeping in mind that the message you send is more important than just the words. And the more reliable message often comes in your nonverbal. And then also just slowing down and asking yourself, is the message you are sending the one that you want to send?
Thank you. Thank you. Wow. You brought out a lot of concepts there. Tell me, what did you like as you look back on yourself? And it's hard probably in your environment, first of all, to speak, and second of all, to stand outside yourself and watch yourself speak, even so more so difficult. But what did you like about how you covered this slide?
Um, I I like how that when I was looking at the slide, I just really tried to personalize it. Think of it from a perspective that helped me own the material in the slide. So when the more you personalize it, the more it, I don't know, it feels like it's in you. It feels like it's more solid in you.
Hmm. Anything you'd like to do different?
Well, I wasn't sure, when you give an example of something, how important it is to, my example tended to be a little more like generic, like it was a specific example, but I didn't say specifically a situation. So I didn't know how important that is. Like when you're making it personal to say like,
Hmm.
this one particular time when, and be very specific, or if it's okay sometimes to generalize.
Hmm. Hmm. That's a line we walk. Yes, to
Hmm.
know whether we are being too personal, revealing too much information, or if we're being vulnerable and exposing ourselves to help other people learn and experience. That's always a tough line to walk. Boy, I would really like to spend more time on this, but I want to respect the other three that have the opportunity that have prepared. I'm looking through the comments on the chat, and I echo a lot of those things. One of the things that I really appreciate about your style is you are personal, and I appreciate hearing your personal experience and how you struggle and how you improve and how you're aware. It helps people walk alongside you. And as a facilitator, you are helping them learn by showing how you learned. And so I would encourage you to continue to do that. Your partner will help you if you share too much, or if you're talking about yourself too much. That's a possibility. But for the most part, we do want to share ourselves. So I'm going to say, I just made a couple of notes here. Your personal experience is great. You are a clear speaker. You are not confusing. I like the idea that that you identified that we can use words falsely. You pulled the disc in. You're connecting with what we talked about earlier. Great job. Sarah, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I also agree with the comments in the chat. You did a really nice job teaching the slide without, like, I'm almost envisioning you're not turning and teaching the slide like you're reading it. Like, you know it, you understand it, you reference the icon. So I feel like you taught to the slide instead of teaching the slide. And that's a really nice facilitation style and presence. And that just shows that you understand the material, but you're also helping your participants reference, why do we have this icon? You're still tying to the material on the slide without giving us all death by PowerPoint and reading it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Kristen, are you on the call?
Yes, I am.
Are you prepared? Were you given the Who is the Message t-shirt slide? Is that part of your preparation, if I understood it right?
Yes, it is.
Can you
And
talk to me about what that is all? Oh, go ahead, Sarah.
I was gonna say, Kristen, you're just gonna want to let me know when you want me to click for your clicker.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. I didn't think about it like that. So I guess if I would set up the slide, it would be awesome if I could be team teaching with Jamie, because we would toggle from Jamie then to me for this slide, and she said some of the things that I had prepared to kind of segue from that slide to this slide. So I'm just going to pretend that she did all that, and then I'm going to move into this. So I would say
Great.
thank you, Jamie. And who is the message? This slide is a slide that we need to take a pause. You know, there's 4 words in the question, who is the message? And as you can see in the circle, there's 4 words to the answer, I'm the message. We don't want to just skip over the slide and say, who's the message? I'm the message. Of course, I'm the message. I'm the one who's speaking. But I think when we learn our DISC profiles, we're going to learn how we learn differently, maybe visually, audibly, tactily. And so this is a thinking slide. It's not about content. It's about who we are, not what we're doing. So if I would say, I am the message, if we were all in a class together, we would all repeat that together. So let's repeat that together. Who is the message? I am the message.
Yes.
Awesome. So what if I said it like this? I am the message. I am the message. I am the message. I am the message. You probably receive that differently. I think what's really important is when we're seeking meaning and we want to be heard and understood by the other person, we need to think about those things, the verbals, the nonverbals, and our tone of voice. What I find interesting is if you go back to the communication cycle slide, you have seek to connect, building a message, sending a message, and then you have this gold dotted line. There really is no blue circle with I am the message. What do you think that means? For me, in the communication cycle, this is where I need to take the pause. This is the dotted line where I really need to just back up a minute before I move forward to make sure that I'm going to be heard. So if you think about it, different learning styles, let's do 3 different approaches. If this is a driving lesson and that's a yellow dotted line, what does that mean? You need to be cautious before you pass someone. So you're going to look in your rearview mirror, you're going to put your blinker on, and then you're going to move into the other lane. If you think about this like an English lesson, I am the message. I is the subject. Am is the verb. That's an action that we're doing. It's something that everything we're saying, everything we're not saying, the looks on our faces, what our body language is saying. And the third way to look at that is a life lesson. So if you looked at your wrist and you see the veins on your wrist, you have blue veins. And we all know that that's the blood inside your body circulating. If you think about the blood inside of your body as character, you think it looks like it's blue. But when you actually bleed, it's not blue, it's red. So if we think about character, for me, character only bleeds out. You can't see your character until it bleeds out. So I want you to remember the slide in the way that I am the message. You are clothing yourself with a red t-shirt. You are bleeding out to everyone. I am the message. So everything you say, everything you don't say, your tone of voice, it all has to match up. And this is the motto of the course. And so you need to encode your message properly before you can go on to having other people receive the message. That's it.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Well, the first question that we ask is, what did you like about what you just said?
I just think it's an important slide, and I'm so thankful I didn't have the other slide the other day. I think that Stephanie had with the entire chart. So I was trying to, I wanted the slide to be important for them, and I wanted to use different learning styles so that they would remember the slide.
Oh, that's great. Anything you'd like to change?
Well, I'm a C, so I can talk you to death. So if this is truly a thinking slide, I want to give pause and not fill in that empty space. I want to just give them an opportunity to process what I'm trying to say.
Yes. All right. Thank you. My response is, wow, what a great group of ways to look at this. You've spent a lot of time preparing for this particular slide, and that is really, you've met the goals of what we're doing here. You had just a tremendous amount of depth and different facets that you brought forth, and I like every one of them. It is probably, we may not be able to use all of them in every class, but I'm guessing that everyone that was listening here took away something that they can use from what you did. Excellent coverage of the material. Super. Yeah, I'm a little at a loss as to say much more than wow. what a great way to look, a great group of ways to look at this slide and bring it to life. So thank you for that. Thinking, I can tell you're a C. Yeah, you're a thinker. Sarah, you got any comments?
I agree with Larry's comments and actually your own reflections, Kristen. It's nice to see that like instantly you can say, okay, well, what is something, what am I aware of about myself that I might want to adjust in my presentation style? And you're already doing that. The comments in the chat box are all incredibly supportive, and I agree the tonality of how you share information really rings true with how you it, but also how you want to share the meaning and the importance of it with your participants. And I like that you highlighted the verb, the I am, that there's that action behind it. I'm stealing that, just so you know. I'll be doing that next time I teach. So, yeah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Very well done.
Yes. Barbara, are you on the call?
I am here.
Are you ready and available to talk about the 5 listening skills?
Absolutely. So, as
all right, the floor is yours.
Right. So the goal is for us to build a large net. So we have with small holes. So this way our message is heard, fully heard, and we have 5 reflective listening skills to kind of get you able to build that net much bigger and stronger. So I think about this as in my office, I have people that come in all the time, and I want you to think about when you're in your office or you're in your cube and you're busy doing something and people come in, think about how you're responding as we look at these 5 reflective listening skills. So the first one that we really want to have is attending behavior. And this is really being able to physically focus on the speaker. So I'm leaning in, we're having no distractions, you're putting your phone down, you're taking your hands off of your computer, really trying to give that person your full attention. The second piece is acknowledgments. So we really want to give them a lot of head nods and other nonverbal cues to let them know that we are listening. So we're fully engaged with them. So group, can anyone tell me what's the first reflective listening skill? Anybody?
Attending behavior.
Great. And the second one?
Acknowledge.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So as we move on to the next one, our door openers, this is really allowing an invitation for the speaker to continue to talk. So sure, go on. Please continue. So all those little words, and we're letting them know we're still here, we're still listening, and we want to hear all of what they have to say. So those are our door openers. And then the next one, number 4, is silence. And I think when people think about silence, they're thinking just about their voice, right? So not only do we want you to listen and not speak, but also silence your mind, right? And this is really hard for people to do because some people are very uncomfortable with the absence of sound. And so when you hear that in those long pauses, people want to jump in right away, right? And so you have to refrain from doing that and give people time to get their thoughts together, complete their thoughts, and say that. And really, you're not thinking about responding, right? So quiet your mind. You're not thinking about a question. You want to be fully present for that person and listen to all what they have to say. So let's go back real quickly. The number 1 behavior, reflective listening skill, is
Attending
behavior.
Thank you. Number 2,
Acknowledgement.
awesome. And the third one,
Door openers.
oh look, we're all starting to wake up. I love it. Number 4,
Silence.
awesome.
Silence.
All right. So the 5th reflective listening skills is reflectively responding. And what that looks like is basically you're trying to demonstrate to the person that you get what they're saying. Doesn't mean that you agree with what they're saying, but you get what they're saying. And so it might sound something like, so what I hear you saying is, right? And so we'll get a chance to practice a lot more of these as we move on into the class, but just giving you a few bullets on what these things look like and start to think about how it shows up for you. Now, those are 5 reflective listening skills, and they are very good behaviors and things to do when we're talking with people, but really they mean nothing if they're not enveloped with empathy. And so what this means really is it shows that you are caring about the person and not just caring about what they're saying, you're feeling what they feel, right? And so really trying to understand where that person is coming from, what they're going through, and why this matter is so important to them, and really trying to understand that with them. So, one more time, let's all go. So, the first reflective listening skill is
attending,
And behavior.
number 2.
acknowledging,
Great. Number 3.
Door opener.
Door openers.
Number 4.
silence,
Number 5.
Reflectively
Effectively respond.
You guys are awesome. And it's all enveloped in what?
Empathy.
Great.
Empathy.
So now we're on our way to building that bigger, stronger net with the small holes. And if we're using all of these skills, it'll help us connect more with people in all of our conversations as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. What do you like about what you just presented?
So I liked trying to put it in context for folks. I think the first time I got this message in class, it was like kind of all over for me. I couldn't really figure it out. Like, oh, can I do this? Can I do that? And it's really like just putting yourself in that time. When somebody walks in that door and somebody's trying to talk to you, like what should I be doing? And so for me, that kind of pulled it all together. Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and then I know it's like hard because I don't really want to give a whole lot of examples because we're going to get into a lot more of it as we move into the class. So it's like trying to give the high level, but just so it means something to people in this moment in the beginning. So
Great. Anything you'd want to do differently?
I was struggling with the getting the feedback as we went along, and I know that it kind of outlines like that in the book, but I guess it'll be more natural, like when you're in the class.
Mm-hmm.
And so then just to see how people are feeling, and maybe even just calling on some folks. But yeah, other than that, I thought, well, I made it.
Great. You made it. You did it with flying colors. My goodness. You are a teacher at heart. It may have felt awkward to have us repeat back, and it did seem a little awkward maybe at the beginning, but it really helps drive the point home. And that's something you can only sense when you're there with the class. You know, should I have them repeat it again? Well, you'll sense that when you're in the class. And I was looking through the comments of the chat, and some of the folks noted that the energy increased as we went through this. So in that sense, it was successful to kind of have us, repeat back that. You covered the material in terms of identifying all those 5 things. Great job. I really like your personal experience of presenting the stage and saying you're at work and you're getting interrupted. Oh, I can connect with that. And that's really the hard time. It's the event that's hard to do these behaviors. So great job. Thank you. Great preparation. I can tell you thought about this a long time, and you came to this ready to go and prepared. Hats off to you. Sarah, do you have any further comments?
I support what you've shared, Larry, and then the comments in the chat box. I like how you realize that you were really just foreshadowing for tomorrow. Like, we're going to talk about this tomorrow, but I'm just bringing this to your attention now. But you still created meaning around it without just like checking the box and getting through it. without over teaching, without going too deep. It was a really perfect balance.
Thank you.
Lindsay, I believe you have the next teaching opportunity. Are you on the call?
I am ready to go.
All right, the floor is yours.
All right. Sean, do you mind if could I ask you to please read this quote?
Sure. Nothing feels so good as being understood, not evaluated or judged. When I try to share some feeling aspect of myself and my communication is met with evaluation, reassurance, distortion of my meaning, I know what it is to be alone.
Thank you so much. So I'd like to unpack this quote a little bit with you all and invite you to think of a time when some of these might have applied to you. So for evaluation, you know, I have an awesome friend who is a great problem solver. But sometimes when I'm not feeling at my best and I talk to her, she is trying to evaluate the problem for me. She wants to fix it so quickly. And that can be really frustrating for me. So that's what I think about when I think about evaluating when I'm trying to give my feelings to somebody. For judged, you know, I have another awesome friend, and before I had taken this class, I would have been a little judgy, and let's be honest, I may still be a little bit judgy about some of her choices in the folks that she dates, because I think she's wonderful and deserves the very best. But, you know, after taking this class, I thought about how much of that is coming forward when I'm receiving what she's telling me. So if she's coming forward and telling me that she's feeling really bad about how a relationship is going, and I'm giving her a lot of judgment, she's not going to continue to share that with me. And not that long ago, she actually got into a bad situation with somebody that she was dating. And I was so glad that I had taken this class and that I was able to not be judgmental, because then she was able to continue to bring me those feelings so I could listen and be there for her and make sure that she was safe. For distortion, you know, I really think about when somebody puts words in my mouth for this one, and I bet that all of you have had that experience where you thought you were being clear and then somebody repeats it back to you, and that is not at all what I said. Please do not put words in my mouth. I'm seeing some nods, so probably been there. And I think that brings us to a really interesting one, reassurance. So why do you all think that reassurance is there? And please feel free to chime in. I know it's a little awkward on the video call, but I know reassurance can feel good. So can someone talk to me a little bit about their thoughts on reassurance?
I can, Lindsay. This is Heather. I think sometimes people think that reassurance is helpful, and I think the reality of it is sometimes it doesn't actually give space for the difficulty of maybe what you're feeling or experiencing. I know for me, my mother loves to give me reassurance and placating statements. In the end, it just leaves me feeling like I can't process with her, like she needs it to be better more than I even need it to be better. And so when I see the last part of that quote about I know what it is to be alone, I think it's a really important thing to keep in mind that reassurance is sometimes actually not the thing that the other person needs, and maybe it's perhaps better to ask what they need before you jump into reassurance. So that's what comes out for me.
Thanks, Heather. That's really powerful. I like that. Ask what that person maybe needs, or if you're the person sending the message, telling them what it is that you might be looking for. That might work too. Yeah, and Heather, I think you hit on something that I feel too, talking about my friend earlier, that that I was saying maybe I don't always want to let her know how I'm feeling because I know she's going to problem solve it for me. I feel a little bit more isolated from her. And I think that that's kind of what this quote gets to with feeling alone. If I feel like there are some parts of myself that I can't share because I'm not going to be met with that, you know, that care and that understanding, it does help me feel a little bit more isolated from that friend, unfortunately. So as we continue to talk about communication in this class, we'll be learning some skills that will really help us be better listeners and what it means to understand somebody's message. So remember, our mission is truly human connection. And I think this sets us up really well as we move forward to our next slide. So thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Lindsay. What did you like about what you just told us, or how you presented that slide?
Well, I think some of the best parts for me from the classes that I've been a part of or sat in on for OCL are the really great examples from people's friends and family or coworkers, and I wanted to include some of that. But now I'm realizing this is the first time I've shared some of those stories. I'm just kind of clearing up the wording that I want to use and making sure I think it's good that some emotion comes forward from me, but I don't want to lose it in front of the whole audience, which felt like I needed to breath there for a moment. And if I tell the story a few times, I know I'll be able to get through the story. But this was just the first time saying some of those out loud. So I think that the personal stories were my favorite part, but also something that I would need to practice more. So I think that answers both of the questions.
Right. Okay, and so you answered the question, what would you like to change as well, if I understand you right?
Yep, more practice.
Did you want to add anything to that?
Stories. Yep.
Okay, all right. You handled this slide very, very well. One of the things that this slide is a facilitation slide. You know, it's a discussion. It brings things out. You told some personal experiences to get the ball rolling. You may find out that those stories are very applicable in the material, but they might not go on this slide. So thank you for doing that research and bringing that forward. One of the things that I really, really appreciated about your facilitation of this slide was you left it open. What are your thoughts on reassurance, you said, and you just left it open for the participants, and that's going to be a really, really valuable tool to you, and to allow people to discover and to allow them to think that through and allow them to see, oh, wow, maybe I don't, I don't like it when people reassure me, So your facilitation of this slide was just superb, and it's difficult to do in this venue with not being able to see anyone. So great job. You know this slide, you know the material, you know the principles, you're willing to share yourself, and I think you're going to make a great facilitator for discussion. Sarah, you got anything to add?
Yeah, again, I completely agree. Some practical things. You thanked Sean. It's always important that when we ask someone to participate from the audience, from the you, and they volunteer to do it, that we thank them and that we acknowledge them. And so you modeled that already. And you had excellent transition out of the slide. It's almost like you just took what people had said and what you had shared and then just shifted out. You tied it back to mission, very likely tied it to a learning objective with your statements, and just moved us on. This slide can go on for way more minutes than we gave you today, but that transition that you used would always be a great way to shift out. So that was well done.